Welcome to The Safeguarding Way. This episode is an extension of our Substack channel. In December 2025, articles regarding AI abuse were published as a reflection on International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, as well as 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This presentation asks the question whether digital abuse is real abuse, and we go through how deepfakes and tech amplify gender-based violence. We look at the digital weapon and the human cost, introducing people to the technology-facilitated gender-based violence definitions, and also about new laws and proactive safety. There is also strategies from the United Nations, as well as the legislative actions that have been globally taking place. I hope that this presentation gives you information to help provide a safe environment for yourself and others. Let's get on with our presentation on AI abuse. Is digital violence real violence?
Today, we're diving into a really tough but absolutely critical topic. What happens when artificial intelligence, one of our most powerful new tools, gets turned into a weapon to amplify gender-based violence? We're going to look at how the tech of the future is being used to fuel some of the oldest harms imaginable.
And just so you know, this explainer comes to you from The Safeguarding Way. It's a justice-driven publication, and it's all about trying to find a path toward truth and repair in a world that's really grappling with these new tech-fueled kinds of harm.
So, to really get why this conversation is so urgent, especially as we mark the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, we have to start with a pretty stark reality. This isn't some historical statistic. This is right now. Every 10 minutes, another life is violently taken.
To put that number into perspective, over a single year, that adds up to about 50,000 women and girls killed by the very people who should have been their protectors, their partners or family. It's a global crisis, really a shadow pandemic that's been going on for decades. And now, technology is adding a whole new, terrifying dimension to it. But huge numbers like that can start to feel a little abstract. So let's bring this down to a human level to see exactly how these digital threats create devastating, real-world trauma for a real person.
Let me tell you about Hannah Grundy from Sydney. Her story is just a powerful, heartbreaking example of how this new kind of violence works. See, the person who attacked her wasn't a stranger. It was a friend she had known and trusted for over a decade, which made the betrayal and the violation so much deeper.
So here's what happened. This former friend used AI to create and then spread these horrible, explicit, deepfake images of her and of 25 other women. But Hannah, she fought back. Her relentless pursuit for justice didn't just bring the crime to light, it landed the perpetrator a 9-year prison sentence. It was proof that these digital acts have serious, real-world consequences.
Hannah's case is a truly stark example of how AI has become this new weapon. So let's take a closer look at the technology itself and the specific kind of harm that it's making possible.
The official term for this is technology-facilitated gender-based violence, or TFGBV for short. Basically, it's any act of violence against women and girls that's either committed, helped, or just made way worse by digital tech. We're talking about cyberstalking, online harassment, and, of course, deepfakes. And let's be clear, this isn't virtual violence. It's violence, period. Okay, so how does AI actually cause this harm? Well, the UNESCO playbook gives us a really useful way to think about it, kind of like two sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got the unintended consequences. This happens when an AI is trained on biased data, and so it ends up reproducing our own societal stereotypes, like an AI tutor that gives girls less encouragement in math. But on the other side, and this is what happened to Hannah, you have intended, malicious attacks. This is where people deliberately exploit AI systems to create and spread truly harmful content.
And who's bearing the brunt of these malicious attacks? Well, when we talk about deepfakes, we are not talking about funny political memes. The overwhelming, gut-wrenching reality is that 95% of all deepfakes are non-consensual pornography. And of those, 99% of the targets are women. You can't deny how gendered this weapon is. It's undeniable.
And creating this stuff is just shockingly easy.
This prompt here, it's from a UNESCO exercise, and it shows just how a bad actor can get around an AI's safety features. All they have to do is frame their request as fictional, and boom, they can trick the system into generating targeted, vicious abuse. This is exactly how women journalists, activists, and politicians are being attacked and silenced online.
But the story doesn't end there, not by a long shot, because a global fightback is already underway, as nations are finally starting to wake up and respond to this crisis.
We are really starting to see legislative action heat up. The public outcry over femicides in Italy back in 2023 and the impact of brave people like Hannah Grundy in 2024 have directly led to new, much tougher laws in 2025. It just goes to show you that public pressure and survivor advocacy, it really works. Let's look at Italy. After 106 women were murdered in a single year, their parliament acted, and they acted decisively. They unanimously passed a landmark law that makes femicide a specific crime, punishable with life in prison. That sends a hugely powerful message. The killing of women because they are women will not be tolerated.
And then back in Australia, Hannah Grundy's fight had a direct impact. The new Deepfakes sexual material bill means that creating and sharing this kind of abusive content is now punishable by up to 6 years in prison. Our legal systems are finally starting to catch up to the technology.
But laws are often reactive, right? They're about cleaning up a mess that's already been made. So how do we get ahead of the problem? That's what we're going to talk about now, the proactive steps we can all take to build a genuinely safer digital world.
One of the most interesting tools out there is something called red teaming. Now, it sounds super techy, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's basically ethical hacking for social good. Experts, and sometimes even the public, are invited to intentionally try to break AI models, to find all their flaws and biases before they can be released and cause widespread harm. It's all about being proactive, not just reactive.
And this proactive mindset is exactly what the UN is calling for with its global call to action. It's a 4-part strategy. First, ensure accountability with stronger laws. Second, support survivors with actual, tangible resources. Third, amplify women's voices and build digital literacy. And finally, and this one is absolutely key, embed safety by design right into the tech from the very beginning. Safety just can't be an afterthought anymore.
Which really brings us back to the fundamental question. If we can all agree that digital violence is real violence, with real victims and real-world consequences, then the challenge for all of us, for tech companies, for governments, for all of us in our communities, is how do we actually build a world, both online and off, where safety and dignity aren't just luxuries for some, but are fundamental human rights for everyone.
Look, this is a massive conversation, and it's one that has to continue. If you want to dive deeper into these issues and really be part of the solution, you can find more resources and become a subscriber over at thesafeguardingway.substack.com. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.